أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اتبعه بإحسان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Inshallah, this week and a few of the coming weeks we will go through the story of Sulaiman from the 27th chapter of Qur'an, Surah Al-Naml. We are going to follow the same story as ourselves, trying to find our own stories in the story of Sulaiman. The story of Sulaiman is going to start around 12, verse number 12. So up until this part, I will try to make a quicker read. But the initial part of the surah, I didn't want to skip this part because it sets a background on which basis we are going to read the rest of the chapter. Since we will be reading that specific story, I thought it would be nice to see on what basis we are invited to read this story. And throughout this chapter, there are other stories as well. So it's probably will only cover Sulaiman's story from here, and also very quickly we will go through the story of Musa as well, which we covered before. Tasin tilka ayatul Qur'ani wa kitabun mubin. So these are messages of the Qur'an, a divine writ, clear in itself and clearly showing the truth. So I would just like to mention one thing in this verse. These are the signs or ayat, the messages of Qur'an. Then comes wa in there and kitabun mubin. So this translator, for example, took it as kitabun mubin. The second part is an explanation of Qur'an, like a book that is clear. But there are other interpretations of Kitabun Mubin as well, which I think an alternative interpretation will make our reading the rest of the text different. So the chapter starts with, these are the signs, these are the verses or the messages of Qur'an, and also Kitabun Mubin. Imam Nursi has an interesting interpretation for Kitabun Mubin as well, because throughout Qur'an, Kitabun Mubin, Imamun Mubin are two phrases that are being repeated a lot, and it had been a matter of debate across scholars. What is what? Are they the same thing? But if they are the same thing, why? Sometimes it's been coming as Imamun Mubin, sometimes coming as Kitabun Mubin. What's the deal? So the interpretation of Imam Nursi for Kitabun Mubin is, it is as if the book of existence. So the things that are happening right in front of our eyes, as if with the pen of power, the creator is inscribing a book. So this is Kitabun Mubin. And on the other hand, he would take Imamun Mubin as the things that are happening has a past and has a future. So things are coming into the moment within an order, which is indicating that they were also written before and after. Which to which he is just to summarize in a word, he says, Imamun Mubin, you can consider it as the book of Qadar. Qadar in the sense meaning everything is before and after. From my point of view, before and after is written, is still existing. And Kitabun Mubin is the things that are happening right in front of my eyes, they are also being written. So if I take it with this way, now the rest of the chapter is going to slightly change, because the author, if we take this interpretation, so the verses, the messages to follow, tilka ayatu al-Qur'an wa kitabun mubin. So these are the messages of the Qur'an, and also the messages that you will observe in the existence right in front of your eyes. And this is how we are trying to read the chapter anyways, right? How it is telling my story. Because right after 2 or 3 verses, it will start talking about Musa, then we'll start talking about Sulaiman. So, like, these are people that long ago have gone. But if I take it as these are the, actually, whatever I am speaking in here is happening right in front of your eyes. These are the verses, the messages of Kitabul Mubin, and Kitabul Mubin being the existence itself, then things are changing. So I'll quickly go through the other verses, and if you would like to add anything, because I will try to at least give half of the time to the beginning part of Sulaiman's story. هذا بشرى للمؤمنين. No, هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين, sorry. So this message is a guidance and a glad tidings to the believers, and then comes a description of believers الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون, who are constant in prayer and يؤتون الزكاة, so here translated as and in charity, for it is they who in their innermost are certain of the life to come. So in here, what do you say about the description of believer? He talked about the signs being guidance and glad tidings to believers. Why is it a guidance for believers in the first place? If you are a believer, you are already guided. What does it mean that it's a guidance to believers? I guess the Bushra, the glad tiding part, yeah, it gives the good news. It's understandable, but it being guidance to the believers, what does it mean? I guess in order to maybe make more sense of what does it mean, let's take it with the next verse. They are those who are constant in prayer and spend in charity, for it is they who are, so there's this emphasis in there, who in their innermost are certain of the life to come, or akhirah, like afterlife. This is as if the distinguishing aspect of believers. Do you see any connection between the scripture, also the existence being a guidance for those who believe, and the description of belief being this, doing the prayer and giving in charity? Because it looks very much like action-wise, something action-wise. Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that it seems that although believers, they're the ones who in their innermost are certain of the life to come, right? That's something internal. Though the proof of that, I guess, is through their actions. And that internal conviction by itself is not enough. It has to be added to or in addition with actions.
Yes.
When I look at the definition, and even before the definition, when it says a guidance and glad tiding to the believers. I guess this part is like we cannot emphasize enough, guidance and glad tiding. So whatever you read there, even if he's talking about killing some people or being burned in a hellfire, or you will be punished, or you will be something that we don't like, it says, you're probably reading it wrong because it's guidance and glad tiding. If you cannot see the glad tiding when I talk to you about the hellfire, that means you should change something, because this is glad tiding. I guess we can take the same thing as you said. If we take after the wa as Kitab al-Mubin, as anything being created in front of us, whatever happened to you, it's a glad tiding. Don't you see it? And I guess the rest, it says, if you don't see it that way, maybe you are missing some of these. Maybe you're not living your life in a way that it has a purpose, it has a meaning. Because when it talks about, like, of course we maybe like fully understand the verse, we should study what it means to yukumin salah, praying, or I don't know, being standing in salah. We should discuss, but even with a like a superficial understanding of praying, doing some actions, your body is following what you understand, meaning you living a life which is meaningful, purposeful. Otherwise, there won't be a connection between what you do and what you think, what you say. Like there's a coherence in your life. Giving charity, if you take it as giving charity, or maybe he's talking about being purified, doesn't matter. Like at the superficial level, you living a life in which you trying to improve yourself. You follow a path in which you will become better. Society will become better, you will become better, you will purify. Details doesn't matter, but you follow a life in which you see a meaning. And then bil ahirati hum yuqinun, that they are yakun, like very close to ahirah. Certain. Ahirah, you can take it as life to come, you can take it as the consequences of what you do, you can take it as the other side of what you see. Again, doesn't matter. In every interpretation, you will see that you're living a life in which you are considerate, you are worried, or you take care, you take it important, serious about the consequences, about what is coming next, or how your actions are ending. So I guess it describes a life in which a person is looking for meaning, for a purpose, and realizing that their life has an order, a meaning, a purpose, and trying to follow it. For such a person, verse says, whatever comes next is a guidance and glad tidings.
So, if there is no afterlife for me, or there is nothing beyond the moment for me, then whatever news comes to me is just either doesn't make sense, or it just will annoy me further, because I am already trying to enjoy the moment, but the moment is escaping from my hand, and somebody comes and just speaks about it. I am already annoyed about something, and somebody comes and just talks to me. At least it will be annoying, but furthermore, if somebody comes and says that there is a meaning or something, I will just go crazy with if somebody tries to make sense of the existence, because for me it doesn't make any sense. It's nothing. So if I go from the latest verse, yes, if I don't have certainty about the meaning of life or the afterlife, then both the existence and the scripture itself is not going to have any glad tiding or any guidance for me. Likewise, the first part is so doing the prayers or giving charity, because giving charity is a sign of being conscious that property doesn't belong to me, or anything doesn't belong to me, this consciousness. And not only having this consciousness, by acting by it as well. So the two are different. I might be convinced about something, I might be convinced that smoking is bad, but still I might keep smoking, right? So understanding something and abiding by it is not identical. There's a difference between them. So if I have some conviction, meaning that I am believing in something, but also I am acting by it, then the message will start making sense to me. Then talks about the other side of the coin. إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة زينا لهم أعمالهم فهم يعمهون. As for those who will not believe in the life to come, behold, goodly have we made their own doings appear unto them, and so they stumble blindly to and fro. In general, this is an interesting concept. He's talking about somebody who doesn't believe in the afterlife. And for them, the Creator says, we made their own doings appear good unto them. How does it sound like? Which one happens first?
I was trying to look at me good or nice, and okay, now I see it's at the beginning.
Goodly, yeah.
This is Muhammad the Sahib, right?
Yes. So, which one happens first? Is it like their doings are being appears good to them, so God makes them see their things appearing good to themselves, so as if God is deviating them, or how is this? What sort of a verse is that?
It seems to me first it starts with them not believing in the life to come, which leads to certain types of actions that are not actually good, because it stemmed from not believing in consequences.
Try to fix sound.
The sound is not working?
It's too low, they say. You can cut it.
It looks like, or is it talking about some, again, is this verse a guidance or telling what's happening out there already? So to the extent that I don't believe in afterlife or meaning in this existence, what do I start doing?
The actions.
I try to give value to whatever I do in here. So, like if, like the tiniest thing that I do, I am trying to see as if this is saving millions, or this is good for humanity, or this is at least good for my parents, this or that. I'm just trying to make whatever I do big and big. So it starts appearing good to my eyes, because I am giving value to the thing itself. It's practically how it is. So rather than like seeing the value in the afterlife in this case would be what makes something valuable. Like, think about it. Let's give an example of like an apple. How valuable is an apple in itself? How long can you preserve an apple? But, or let's change the example slightly. How valuable is a flower? Just a flower, and it's going to dry or rot at some point. But if this flower is being gifted to you from a beloved one, now the value of the flower changes a lot. Maybe previously it was just like by paying $5 to Trader's Joe, you can buy a decent flower. But it cost you for $5. But if you give it to a beloved one, it will cost hundreds of dollars maybe. Because now the meaning in the flower is not being measured by the the material aspect of the flower anymore. So what we tend to do is, if there is no after, so in this example, after was, now you are seeing beyond the flower. you are not only seeing the $5 value of the flower itself, but you are seeing beyond the flower, which is the love of the beloved one. That it's the symbolizing of this, right? So if you don't see that, then you will try to just preserve the flower itself, because flower should stay fresh. Otherwise, if the flower rots, your $5 is gone. In the second case, you don't really care about the flower itself that much, because the real value is beyond the flower, but being represented with the flower. So if there is no afterlife for me, if there is no beyond for me, what do? I try to make more, or try to see it more beautiful as much as possible. This is something that practically I do in my everyday life. I am trying to let's give more concrete example. If I am publishing some sort of a paper, in order to, and if I'm not able to make sense of what the heck I am doing in this workplace, but I don't have anything beyond, I don't have a meaning, purpose beyond just one line in my CV, what do? Practically speaking, I am trying to cook up a story in my personal world, how important making this research is, how valuable it is for the humanity, how valuable it is helping in advancing sciences and easing people's lives, this and that. Because I don't have anything else to cling to. If I was able to see the meaning behind this paper itself, I wouldn't pay that much attention to the paper, but I will be seeing the meaning of the paper, meaning in the sense that as it looks to eternity, to afterlife, and I will be content with it. But now I am looking at the thing itself and trying to beautify it. I am imposing some sort of, I am trying to find some sort of beauty in it. And I am finding it. And this is how we do it. Go to any person, like in our department, for example, and ask them, what are you doing? They will tell how important the things that we are doing in there. I mean, not to say that it's not important at all, not that it's not like saving lives or this or that, but we are clinging to it and saying that, oh, you know how important this is? Saving a life of another miserable human being who is going to die 60 years later. As if I am just elongating their misery. You can take it as such as well. Who is happy in this life anyways? As long as you cling to, if you have only one life, and which is this life, living long, is it something good really? Is another question that you can ask. But the point is, we are clinging to it and trying to beautify it in our perception, because we don't have the afterlife.
I have a question. So, in this verse, it says that if a person does not have very strong convictions in the afterlife, their actions are made beloved to them. Right? And the previous couple of verses say those who do have conviction, they're doing good actions, more or less. So, I guess if I wanted to identify myself, I can't, based on whether I have firm convictions or not. I can't do it based on my action, assessing my own action, because if I'm one of these people, right, who doesn't have strong faith, I could just be saying, oh, it's good action, so maybe I'm a believer or something like that. What basis is there to assess your own actions? Is it not the action itself? You have to go further back and assess convictions in the hereafter.
So, the way I understand it is, am I giving value to the thing itself, or am I giving value to the meaning behind the thing?
Okay.
So, in our example before, am I, like my lover gave me this flower, am I loving the flower, or am I seeing the love that is being represented with the flower, and I am giving more value to the love itself? So an example, a test for this would be, if the flower gets broken, I'm going to be sad, let's say. If the dog came and tipped over the flower and it just crushed the flower, I'm going to be sad a little bit. But if the relationship breaks up, I'm going to be way more disturbed by the relationship itself being broken. So where am I in this? If the relationship being broken is more important for me, then that means I am looking for an afterlife of the thing itself. But if breaking a flower is hurting me more than anything, then that means I fell in love with the wrong thing. So if, for example, now taking it back to our example of my job, so if one of my papers being, let's say, rejected or accepted, so is it making me happy because I'm going to add another line to my CV, or is it making me happy because now I am understanding something eternally, and this is as if this stage is adding something to my eternal understanding, not just like one line of CV. I mean, in my practical life, to be honest, it's just another line in my CV. So this is why I am trying to say that, yeah, publishing is good because we are helping humanity, and I'm just trying to boost or beautify what I am doing in there. So this is a sign for me that I don't have an afterlife or an extended meaning, an eternal aspect when it comes to publishing papers. Like, this is self-criticism. It would have been awesome if I could have seen what is the purpose of publishing a paper from my eternal life point of view. What does it mean to, which aspect of my creator am I getting to learn better by making this research? But since I don't have it, and still I would like to justify me doing this job, I'm just saying that, you know what, this is so important because we are saving lives, and which generally being baseless in the sense that, again, remembering our metaphor, when it comes to the value of love, value of flower is just incomparable. Value of flower is $5. Value of love of the person who gives you the flower is just priceless. So I don't have this when it comes to my academic life. And this is what this verse is saying. For those who will not believe in the life to come, behold, goodly have we made their own doings appear unto them, so they stumble blindly to and fro. And this is what I am doing. I'm just trying to go this way and that way. I'm trying to just make it appear better to my own sight, more important to myself. Any confessions?
How can we understand the sense of agency in the verse? Like, yes, I may be projecting certain meanings or trying to justify something for myself, and maybe it's just a matter of, because I'm utilizing my free will in a certain sense, it's being created to be good for me. Is that how I'm supposed to understand the verse? But at the same time, I also have to acknowledge the fact that I'm projecting that value because I have the need to ensure that whatever I'm doing is worthwhile or valuable.
Well, the way I see the verse speaks to your needs is that in the first part it says you have kind of like two options, and just to make it clear, Kitab al-Mubin, right, to make things clear, it's giving black and white examples. It says either when you experience something, whatever happens in your life, either you will take it as a guidance and glad tidings, or it will still stay as beautiful, but you will take it as beautiful because you think you achieved something there. Like in the second part, it's interesting. The verse doesn't say that the life is miserable or life is very bad for unbelievers. It doesn't say that. It says they still see value in life, they still see beauty in life. Zayyana, right? Make it beautiful. We made it beautiful for them. But they attribute this beauty to their own achievements. So you have the need of value, you have the need for goodness, let's say, beauty, and you either take whatever is creating in front of you as a beautiful thing is given to you, as a guidance, as a glad tidings, good news. Somebody is taking care of you, or you take the beauty in front of you and say that this is what humanity achieved. I'm great in doing this kind of stuff. Or my friends they are very talented. We did it together. So I guess there is always a need, and there is always a sustenance of this need. You need value, and somehow you find value in life. The question is where to attribute. Either you take it as a guidance or glad tidings, good news from your sustainer, and you say that I'm being taken care of. I'm not alone, or you are alone and try to achieve it yourself.
I understand that, and that makes sense to me. But I guess what I'm struggling with is connecting the verse with that specific understanding. Like, how do I go from reading this verse to coming to that sort of approach? Or else that approach in and of itself does make sense. But I don't know if I would immediately come to that. I mean, just based on the translation, yeah, there is the sense that of appearance, goodly have we made their own doings appear onto them. It's not saying goodly have we made their own doings.
So, in the lack of my belief to afterlife, this is my reality. So, is this the part that's not clear? So, if I don't have an afterlife for publication of a paper, meaning that if I don't see any meaning beyond this moment when it comes to, or beyond this life for publishing that paper, that means I don't believe in afterlife or anything beyond material life when it comes to publishing a paper. The Creator is saying that if you're in such a case, I am beautifying your actions for yourself. And I am seeing that this is really my case. I am trying to justify or make it appear more beautiful for myself, that this publication is done for good cause or something. Actually, this is like description of my state. It's describing that as a result of you not believing in afterlife, this is what you will end up getting. And this is what I end up getting. And the latest part of the verse, so they stumble blindly to and fro. So because this is what I do, I am trying to, and to and fro reminds me of something that's a funny and a little bit not so tasty memory. But back in my childhood, banana was very expensive in our country. And I was like 6-7 years old. My father was buying us banana, but bananas you eat it and in 2 minutes it disappears. So what I was doing, me and my sister, we were taking banana, just keep chewing it for 5-10 minutes so that the taste stays with me, to and fro. And this is how it happens with my CV as well. If I publish a paper, I look at it, and if no new papers are coming out, or if I am just having some trouble in life, go back and look at your citation counts and try to feel more important, because I'm trying to beautify it for myself so that I can cope with. because there is no afterlife for me. There is no depth in my existence. Since this is the case, I have to just cling to whatever I have in my hand. And أعمالهم, so their own actions, I take it as my own action, as Birkan was saying, it is my achievement. I want to claim ownership over it and feel better about it. But in the following verse, أولئك الذين لهم سوء العذاب وهم في الآخرة هم الأخسرون. It is they whom the worst of suffering awaits. This is again, translator is imposing awaits in there for them, actually. أولئك الذين لهم سوء العذاب. For them is the worst of the suffering, the verse is saying. So it's not necessarily something for the future. For them is the worst of suffering. For it is they who in the life to come shall be the greatest losers. It's again my state. I mean, keeping going back and checking my citation count from Google Scholar to feel better. Or it might be your children, you have good children, and in order to feel yourself good, let's say you come to an old age, you look back to your children there and say that, okay, at least I have some good legacy leaving behind. So trying to feel good about something that I leave behind. So we should all check ourselves. Is it that I am feeling good by looking past and saying that, well, even if I die, I am leaving something behind with which I'm going to be remembered with. If this is what I am trying to find satisfaction in, then there's no afterlife for me anyways. I'm just trying to put more and more value into the things that are left on earth. So then comes this, after this introduction, comes this verse, وَإِنَّكَ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ مِنْ لَدُنْ حَكِيمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Verily, you have received this Qur'an out of grace of one who is wise, all-knowing. Why is he saying that now? So the one speaks in the Qur'an, and the way we mentioned the first verse before you guys came, the first verse we're starting with, saying that these are the signs or the messages of Qur'an, and we interpret it as the book of existence. So the book of existence is also a book, like the lives that we are living is another book that is being written. So now if we read this as such, وَإِنَّ لَتُلَقَّى الْقُرْآنَ مِنْ لَدُنْ حَكِيمٍ عَلِيمٍ. So indeed this message is being sent to you from all-wise, all-knowing. Apparently random things are happening in our lives. Random means there's no wisdom, there's no point. It's just coming out of nowhere. Sad things happening, good things happening. If it is inscription of, writing of an all-wise one, things are changing. But if it's a random act, then yeah, it's just some purposeless thing. Somebody come and hit your car, or you were applying to somewhere, somebody else was admitted because of some either stupid mistake of someone, this or that, or you got this virus, that whatever. Things are happening in life, and then life becomes so annoying, so purposeless. So the same thing applies to the scripture itself. The one that speaks in the scripture says that I know what I am saying. I am not telling you a story just for the sake of entertaining you. This, because he's going to start talking about stories. It is coming from an all-wise one, an all-knowing one. Yes.
But like in addition to you said, I know what I'm saying. Also, I guess it implies that whatever you read there, it comes from the one who knows everything, including you. So we shouldn't read the previous verses. I don't know if that was what Hashaner was referring to, but I guess we shouldn't read the verses as, if you do this, I will do that. I will punish you, or what is the opposite of?
Reward?
Reward, yes. If you do this, if you are a believer, if you become a believer, I will reward you. If you become an unbeliever, or if you are not a believer, then I will punish you. So, rather, the verses tells us that, because this is your state. When you believe in afterlife, whatever it means, we discussed, this is your mindset. You take life as guidance and good news from your sustainer. But when you are in the state of unbelief of afterlife, you try to see the beauty in the things that you achieve, which takes you nowhere. So, again, now I'm taking this as a purposeful text, and I take it as a guidance and good news. Because I already know that, I have such a state that sometimes I'm trying to see the beauty in things I do, and it gives me nothing. They take me nowhere. I try and try, and they take me nowhere. Sometimes I have these beautiful feeling of success or achievement, but the next moment it becomes a more responsibility for me. It's always a burden. And now my Creator, who is wise and all-knowing, warning me, telling me, Ilkan, this is your state and this is the reason. The reason is that you don't believe in afterlife. You don't live your life as a purposeful creation. You don't live your life as something has a meaningful end. And this is because this is the source of your sufferings.
Yeah. So I'm living life to make most joy of the moment, because once the moment is past, nothing will be staying in my hands. Any comments so far? Questions? So we talked about this part of Musa's story. I'll just quickly read over them, and we have our Moses expert here if he wants to make any comment. So I'll quickly read the translations. So Moses said to his family, from far I perceive a fire, something that's familiar to me. So the word that's being used in the verse is anastu naran. So I see in the darkness, he sees a fire that's familiar to him. So he says, I may bring you from there some news, or bring you a burning brand so that you might warm yourselves. But then he goes to the fire. When he came close to it, a call was sounded. Blessed are all who are within this fire, and all who are near it. And limitless in his glory is God, the sustainer of all the worlds. And the message, the one that speaks, keeps speaking. O Moses, verily I alone am God, the Almighty, the Wise. I will very quickly talk about what I understand from these verses. So, in my darkness, I am in expectation of some light. So once I see that light from far, it seems to me like I was expecting to see such a thing. This is why he says, Nastu naran. It's a fire, but he's not simply saying I saw a light, saw a fire, but it's a fire that he's already expecting or familiarized with already. So in my darkness of this life, what's the purpose of this life? I'm trying to make sense of this, but I'm not able to figure it out by myself. So when I am in need of such a guidance, I am already expecting a guidance. So there is a concept of light, fire in human's perception once you are in darkness. So when you see this from far, so there's two options. You can still stick to your darkness and stay where you are, or you can say that I will walk to there with the hope of either getting some news or some warmth from there. So warmth in here is going to warm up my senses, or the news that's going to light up my understanding, my intellect. So two aspects of human. One addressing humans' understanding, the other addressing humans' feelings, senses, consciousness. When he gets close to the fire, which I think in this case is the message and the messengers, because as I get close to the message, like scripture, messengers, the scholars that are sitting around that fire, if you like, they are blessed, like plenty of light you can find from here. And the guide, the one that is truly guiding you, is the creator of all the worlds, sustainer of all the worlds. Because the one that can sustain my desire for light cannot be any human being alone. Because all human beings have limited perspective themselves. So I am in need of being provided guidance from someone who sustains me, meaning that who knows all my needs. This is why I am in need of guidance. Like, without the revelation in this case meaning my creator guiding me, my own tools exclusively is not going to be enough. So, or combining human's intellect, history of human thought to guide my path is not being enough practically. You can talk about this since you are majoring there. So thousands of years of philosophy literature is not giving me enough light to find my way in this darkness. So I am in need of being provided or given light by the sustainer of all the worlds. This last verse is interesting. So he says, Ya Musa innahu ana Allahu al-Aziz al-Hakim. So Musa, in this case, me, have a notion of he. I am in search of he. Whoever is, I mean, he in the sense of God. There must be someone who is taken care of here. And the Creator, when he speaks to him, he says that, you know what? You were looking for someone. It is me who you were looking for. You were searching me in your darkness. You were hoping to find the light. It's me. Now I am talking to you. So as I am searching, I am going to be answered. Since we talked about this before, I'm trying to go through it quickly, but if you have any questions, comments, please stop me. Brother Birkan talked about this before. Now throw down your staff. But when he saw it move rapidly as if it were a serpent, a snake, he drew back and did not dare to return. And God spoke to him again, O Moses, fear not, for behold, no fear need the message bearers have in my presence. So just briefly quoting what we discussed about this before, a staff is something that you rely on. And in other parts of the scripture, the Creator was asking to Musa, what is it that you're holding? Musa was saying that this is my staff. I use it for herding my sheep and bringing down some leaves. So he is utilizing it, and he says it's a cause with which I achieve some effects. And the Creator says, throw it away. Don't get stuck with this expecting results from causes themselves. And then, because he thinks like it's just a dead cause, which is like a machinery, mechanical thing, with which he utilizes it to achieve something. But the Creator makes him see this cause as a living being, as something that's constantly being given existence in the first place itself. it's not a static object. Like any of the causes in this existence is not a static set up thing, now it acts by itself, but rather it is live. The way I guess we talked before is it is being given existence in the first place itself as well. It's a live creation. Like a dry stick is not that once it was created live, now it's a dry stick. No, it is being given existence as a dry stick as well. And neither need anyone who has done wrong and then has replaced wrong with good, for verily I am much forgiving, a dispenser of grace. Then I'm skipping these parts quickly. Now place your hand into your bosom. It will come forth white, without blemish. Go with 9 of our messages unto Pharaoh and his people, for verily they are people depraved. So, but when our light-giving messages came unto them, now Moses goes to the people of Egypt, the ruling class. They said, this is clearly spell-binding deception. This is magic. So this is clearly a magic, they said. Rather than seeing the message and understanding it, they said, this is magic. We talked about this before. And in their wickedness and self-exaltation, they rejected them, although their minds were convinced of their truth. And behold what happened in the end to those spreaders of corruption. And we talked about this as well. Although mind is being convinced sometimes, I tend not to accept something. So mind being convinced doesn't automatically mean that I'm going to accept it. As in the example of smoking. Okay, this was the quick part. Sorry about the speed. We will have 10-15 minutes to make the intro to Solomon's armies. So let's have this as an intro to our main topic. والذين آتينا داود وسليمان علما وقال الحمد لله الذي فضلنا على كثير من عباده المؤمنين. And indeed, we granted knowledge unto David and Solomon, and both were want to say, all praise is due to God, who has favored us above many of his believing servants. What does this sentence say? Do you see anything in here? A very broad question. I should have been more specific about the question, but does anything capture your attention in here? Does it sound awkward, for example? They are being thankful to their Creator because their Creator has favored them above many of the others. And they are given knowledge.
What does it mean? Both were want to say?
He felt the desire
Okay.
to give praise to them.
So let's take it. Let's say you're a handsome person. By itself, being handsome means somebody else is less handsome than you are because you're more handsome. Otherwise, like, everybody would be the same. As there are differences, like in this case, somebody is more knowledgeable means he is more knowledgeable than somebody else, right? So if I tell you you are handsome, what would you say?
So thank you.
Just thank you.
Gratitude.
But I didn't give you this quality, but I am saying that you are handsome. But in reality, is it something that belongs to you?
No.
So shall you then say, no, I am not handsome? Then it doesn't work either, because there is something that appears on you.
Yeah.
Because in their case, they are given knowledge. If they say, yes, we are knowledgeable, then it's like, I guess, one of the examples that we were talking before. If I am the account keeper of this university, if you tell me you have a lot of money I would say, well, yes, the money is going through me. I cannot say that this is not the case because I am truly like a conduit for a lot of money. People are taking money from my hand. But at the same time, I cannot behave as if the money belongs to me because it's not my money. So what would I say? So in their case, they are given knowledge or you are given handsomeness. So shall you be boastful about your handsomeness or shall you deny the handsomeness? Or as they did, they said, all praise for whatever you see on me is due to him. I'm just a conduit. Don't praise me. And also for my personal perception, if I am given knowledge, if I am given handsomeness, intellect, whatever, how shall I feel about it? I am given this by my maker. The knowledge that is being shown on me does not belong to me, but it is being given to me. And this generally is not being how I feel about it. Either I just want to feel better, as how the story started, right? If they don't believe in afterlife, they want to give value, or the things that they do becomes beautified in their perception. Let's say knowledge is given to me, I publish a paper, and I am saying, wow, this paper is really good. I am beautifying my action. But this is not what Sulaiman and David is doing. They say, all praise is to the one that gives us this knowledge, because they clearly see the meaning in, or where this knowledge is coming from. What does this knowledge or this publication refers to? Is it my knowledge? Is it my effort? Or something is being manifest through me? I'm just a blank mirror. Yes, some beautiful faces might be appearing on me, but those beauty does not belong to the mirror. So I'm seeing a beautiful thing on that mirror. If I tell the mirror that you're beautiful, no, it's somebody else's face is reflecting on this mirror. Mirror itself is dark. So this, Solomon and David are aware. Then وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانُ دَاوُودَ وقال يا أيها الناس علمنا منطق الطير وأوتينا من كل شيء إن هذا له الفضل المبين. And Solomon was truly David's heir, and he would say, O you people, we have been taught the speech of birds and have been given of all things. This, behold, is indeed a manifest favor. So, what does it imply that Solomon was David's heir? Because I was Googling a little bit, there's a huge literature and storyline about David, King Solomon, a lot of romance, a lot of all different sort of stuff that you would like to think and you wouldn't like to think about this. So, but what does it mean in our case? So I guess this is what we are trying to make sense of, rather than, and also if you look at the scripture, it's not giving that details anyways, because details of such a thing is irrelevant in my life. So I need to fill in the gaps. So وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانُ دَاوُودَ. So Solomon is the heir, a true heir for David. And he would say, we have been taught the speech of birds. What does it mean, being taught speech of birds?
You can speak to birds?
You can speak to birds.
Mm-hmm.
You have knowledge.
You have knowledge of bird speech. Okay, what does it mean?
Well, at least in terms of the first part, I won't get into the bird speech, but you can be someone's heir in terms of, you can read it in terms of like position or kingship or money, but you can also be someone's heir in terms of mindset and approach and worldview. And so coming from their approach to not attributing knowledge to themselves, but seeing it as an indication to a source, to their creator. We can understand it as Solomon being the heir to the way in which David approached his own existence and the qualities manifested upon him. And that can help us maybe understand the bird speech.
Actually, this is a very good point, because a king's heir inherits a huge wealth. But what is the wealth of David? He says, all praise be to the one who gave this to us. He doesn't even claim ownership on the knowledge that he has. So David is a poor man. He is aware of his poorness, actually. He says that I am not knowledgeable in and of myself. I am being given this knowledge. So if you would like to appreciate the knowledge in here, appreciate the source of this knowledge. It's not mine. I'm just a blank mirror. So in this sense, what Solomon is inheriting from his father is his poorness. He is also aware that he is being taught. He is not the owner of the knowledge. So if I am not a poor man, if I feel like I am smart, then that means I'm not inheriting anything from that lineage. Because it's just opposite. We tend to think that you inherit wealth. The wealth in this case is recognition of your neediness, your poorness. And this is what he inherited from his father. And to people, and also it looks like there is another thing that he inherited, he is also speaking to the people, so delivering the message. Because in the story of Musa there was that the ones in the fire and around the fire are blessed. So the messengerhood, the delivery of the message. He says, to us taught mantiq at-tayr. So this is either being translated as speech of birds, or it's also being translated as the logic of birds, mantiq at-tayr. So when you look at the birds, do you understand what they mean? What they mean in the sense of, why did the Creator write this sentence, this word, this paragraph in the existence? So when you look at flowers, for example, do you understand what they speak? Through them, what does their author mean? Because when you look at like the species of birds might be a chapter in a book, because the universe is a book. So in a chapter or a paragraph of a book, you are actually communicating with the author of that book, right? So when you read a paragraph, you say, okay, I understand author means this by putting this character in the book. So what is the purpose of the author of this existence by putting the character of birds in this existence? Do you understand what they say? Do you understand what traffic accidents say? Another character in the book. So it looks like Solomon was taught the speech of birds or the logic of birds, so he understood what the Creator meant by creating birds.
I guess the question then would be, how do I become David?
It's actually interesting. He doesn't say, I've been taught the logic of the birds or speech of the birds. It says, all people, we have been taught. Like we all have been taught this. It's as if don't you see your relationship with the creation? Don't you see you can even make sense of these flying objects rapidly flying around you? You can even communicate with them. It continues and have been given, we have been given in abundance of all things. Don't you see that as a human being, you have all these connections, infinitely many connections with the creation. You can even make sense of the black holes far away from your galaxy. You can even think about the mindset of other people. You can even communicate with the ants, it will come. Right? You can read poems, you can write poems, you can draw the paintings. you can solve mathematical equations, you can speak, you can listen. Don't you see, he says, don't you see all of them as a manifest favor from your Creator?
Yes. So living life as such would make life very exciting, because now I will take the existence as a ongoing conversation between me and my Maker. My Maker is speaking to me through existence. So this is the last part. I ask for a 10 minutes extension, hoping that our battery life will be enough for that. So here is the armies of Solomon, and there were assembled before Solomon his hosts of invisible beings, and of men and of birds, and then they were led forth in orderly ranks. What sort of an army is that? Army of unseen beings, humans and birds. Since generally Solomon is being considered as this king, elephants would make more sense, like humans and elephants. But birds, I mean, it's they're already very fragile things themselves. So those were gathered for Solomon, and they were led forth in orderly ranks. What does this mean in your life? What are your armies? And why is it an army in the first place? Let's start with an army.
What am I waging war against?
What are you waging war against? Good. So an army is an orderly thing in the first place, right? So do I observe order in the existence? And if I do see order within things, can I be their commander? So do I see the existence as like an army, so much so that I'm going to be their commander? What does it mean? Because it looks like Solomon was their commander, and he was observing birds and humans and those unseen beings as his army. What does it mean? Any ideas? No?
Just to feel like I'm not sure I can make sense of the entire verse, but one thing which attracts my attention is this orderly fashion, orderly ranks, how we want to translate. That like things continue happening in front of me. Like things come together, they move from one place to another place. All these changes, all this dynamism in my life. And the verse says that everything you observe actually happens, all these actions takes place to serve you in a certain way, and they are in order, they happen in an orderly fashion. They do not act as a random happenings. They are not there as a result of blind forces. All these actions take place in an orderly fashion. They're trying to take you from one place to another place. They serve you.
So in this life, what are the troubles that I'm going through, so that I'm going to make use of those orderly things and attack them? Attack my enemies in this existence. What is my enemies? And we are talking about existential enemies. For example, my number one enemy is death or meaninglessness. I don't want to go for nothing, just perish. This is an enemy, dark enemy, as in Lord of the Rings. It's a dark enemy, dark. It's over there, it's growing, darkness is growing, and I need to form my armies and attack this darkness. So it must be that the order that I observe in the birds, in the springtime, in my life, in the things that are seen and unseen, humans and unseen beings, I'm going to take support from them and attack this enemy, the darkness that's growing on me. Old age is coming. So I am losing my youth. So where am I going towards? Or maybe there's and we will talk more about this in the next week. So there is some ideology out there which says there's no meaning in existence. Just leave the moment. This is a huge enemy now. Because if this is the case, really, then I'm going to be stuck in the moment, which is unacceptable from my point of view. Well, I don't know, maybe it's correct. So I will need to have a fight with this. If it defeats me, if it is more true, then my armies of birds or whatever, it's just will be killed. I will say that, yeah, okay, Allah, you're right, life has no meaning. I accept you to be ruling over me. Or I will have the fight and I will say, if my armies can take over the other army, I will take the territory of this ideology out there, which was saying that life is meaningless. I would say, no, my armies defeated you, meaning that my convictions has defeated the ideology that was out there. So the army, do I have armies from within this existence? I mean, the armies are already out there, but am I their commander? In my army, who is behind me? Do I speak the language of the birds? Potentially, I am given this capacity to learn, to understand the speech of birds, what they mean, what does the creator of the birds meant with the birds. But do I have it in practical life as well? Are birds part of my army? Is the spring part of my army? Summertime, the fruits, the newborns, or anything like this? And the last two verses, sorry for taking long. I want to finish it because next week we can start from something new, from the rest of the story. Till when they came upon a valley of ants, حتى إذا أتوا على واد النمل قالت نملة, an ant, a female ant, exclaimed, يا أيها النمل ادخلوا مساكنكم لا يحتمنكم سليمان وجنوده وهم لا يشعرون. O you ants, get into your dwellings, otherwise Solomon and his hosts crush you without being aware of you. So it looks like Solomon was also understanding the tongue of ants as well. Ant was as if saying that within my insignificance and smallness, Solomon will just go over us. He will not pay attention that ants have their dwellings, because the birds was part of the army. Solomon was able to observe the order within the birds. But by hearing this, because in the next one, thereupon smiled joyously at her words. So Solomon hears the cry of the ant as well. So he is also aware of the order within the ants. They have their dwellings. They have a, if you like, queen ant, which gives commands to the rest of the ants. Solomon is aware of this. So in a sense, ants also become part of the army of Solomon, because now he can see the order in there. As long as there's an order, there must be an order. As I reach to this conclusion, they become part of my army. Because what is the alternative? It happens by itself. or over millions of years of random act, ants ended up being like this by chance, by nature, by nurture, whatever. But there's no order. It's product of randomness. In this case, ants become the army of the opposite idea. Because if there's no order, then there's no meaning. Because if you say that there's this book, but the book is just randomly written, then that means there's no author. If there's no author, then there's no meaning that's being conveyed. Even if the letters fit into proper places to make a meaningful sentence, if there's nobody speaking this sentence, you cannot talk about meaning in this sentence, because it's not conveying a message in the first place. It's just randomly placed letters. It doesn't mean anything. If there's no order, then there's truly no meaning in this existence. Granted. So Sulaiman is aware of the order in the ants though. Therefore, they become part of his army. So the last verse. Okay, our battery is running low. Last verse, just 5 minutes. فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا. Then he smiled joyously من قولها, to her speech. وقال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأدخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. O my sustainer, he said, inspire me so that I may forever be grateful for those blessings of yours with which you have graced me and my parents, and that I may do what is right, that will please you, and include me by your grace among your righteous servants. So this is a beautiful conversation now taking place. He is observing the order within the existence.